I'm lost and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here. I'm lost and into the dark. Is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Multiverse broadcasting system initiated.
Hello.
Lasers.
Multiverse connection established.
Lasers.
Hello.
Multiverse connection secure.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This is My Life DIY, and
Hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
To Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation, don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret cave, hidden deep within the wilderness. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live across the multiverse from a secret cave, hidden deep within the wilderness of Tennessee. That's right, we're ripping through the electromagnetic soup, tearing through the atmosphere, and tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, September the 15th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are going to continue our amazing State of Mystery series, diving into the paranormal of all the states of the United States of America. That's right, we are up to the state of Idaho. I just spent 4 years there personally, and I can tell you it is chock full of some paranormal. We're going to dig into all that and more here in just a moment, but first let's give a quick shout out to our chat room over here on the YouTubes. Remember, if you're listening on the radio worldwide, you can join us live and fully interact with us over on the YouTube chat rooms, both on the Dark Wolf's Den Show YouTube, as well as the Ripon Rabbit Hole YouTube. That is RIPON Rabbit Hole. That's right. And let's see who all is over here, guys. How you guys doing today? It looks like we've got quite a few of you over here. We got Terry Taggart says, "Go Idaho" first in the chat room tonight, of course. Miss Terry Taggart, really appreciate you being here. Next up, we have Errol Taylor. "Too cold in Idaho, so I'm told." You know what, Errol? You are absolutely right. It is quite cold in Idaho, and it gets cold quite quick there. We'll discuss that here a little bit later. My Life in the house. Look at you, My Life. Glad to have you here. Panga says, "Today in history." Yes, ma'am, you have listened to the show. We've moved that up just a little bit. We'll get to the Today in History here in just a moment. But moving right along here, who else do we have joining us in the Ripon Rabbit Hole chat over here? Raider Champion, glad to have you here, Mr. Raider. Man Danny Mull checking in, glad to have you, Man Danny Mull. And that is everybody, looks like, checked in over at the Ripon Rabbit Hole chat. Let me go ahead and drop both these down to live chat just in case I missed something. I do apologize if I have missed you. And shout out, of course, to everybody also listening on the radio worldwide. Over in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room, JoJo's first in the house over here with a wave. "Good evening," says JoJo. Good evening, JoJo. It's glad to have you here. Michael Fontaine over here says, "I wanted to jump start a car with a potato." Like Joe just said, I don't think it'll be a potato, perhaps, or a car, perhaps a light bulb. You guys remember doing that in school, the light bulbs? I actually thought that was really neat that you could plug in a light bulb and, run it off a potato. Now, it ain't going to run long. A clock also. We ran a clock off a potato in electronics class, too. Carol's Cookies stopping by. Glad to have you, Carol's Cookies. My friend over there from the Creepy Little Book channel, our buddy Pete over on YouTube. You guys have a chance to ever go on and check him out also. Amazing work he does. If you like what we do here, you'll like the Creepy Little Book. Glad to have you here, Carol's Cookies. Euler Greg, glad to have you here. Just had a hurricane in Houston. Houston. I hope everything's okay in Houston. Who else do we got here? Looks like that's everybody we have in the chat rooms tonight. And I, of course, appreciate having every last one of you guys here. Whether you are over here in the YouTube chat rooms chatting away, or you are listening on the radio, whether you're making dinner, driving down the road, whatever the case may be, it is an absolute honor and pleasure to have every last one of you along for the ride. That's right. And speaking of being along for the ride, we've got 2 more fun little segments we've got to get to before we get this ride cranked up and rolling down the roads of Idaho. That's right. And the first of those 2 segments is called Today in History. On this day in 1993, the single I'd Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That, sung by Meatloaf and composed by Jim Steinman, is released. It goes on to be number 1 in 28 countries. That's right. As well as on my number 1 list of 90s love songs. I know a lot of you are not going to agree with that, but I did grow up in the 90s and kind of dating myself there. I don't think I ever musically left the 90s. That's still all I prefer to listen to, right? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was released. I Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That by Meatloaf was released on this day in 1993. And that is today's episode of Today in History. See, to me, that was always one of those middle of the summer loving tracks, right? Got a really good beat. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of summer loving, that brings us to our next segment this evening, a segment that we call Say What? God, I love that soundbite. Gets me every time. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, our quote of the day today comes from author Unknown. We get a lot of those. Unknown writes a lot of stuff. Anyway, tonight's quote goes like this. I quote, "I enjoy summer in Idaho. Last year it was on a Tuesday." End quote. And I can tell you, the majority of the time in a place like Idaho, especially up in the mountains where I was the last 4 years, the summertime is incredibly short-lived. This references it being on one day. It's about 2 weeks long, maybe 3 weeks on an extended summer, and the rest of the year is cold. We get 8 out of 12 months that is absolutely frozen up there. But that I can tell you from experience, the summers in Idaho last very, very short periods, at least in the mountains. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is today's segment of Say What? And Idaho is an incredibly and exceptionally beautiful place to live. I lived there for about 9 years of my life, almost a quarter of my life, if that don't give my age away. But anyway, about a quarter of my life I have lived in Idaho. And let me tell you, it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, there's so much open land. In comparison to people per land, there's a lot more land than there is people, let me tell you. A lot of open area. A lot of it is owned by the Bureau of Land Management, or BLM in this case. But the Bureau of Land Management may own it. That doesn't mean that there isn't a significant amount of other creatures that reside there. I can tell you personally that I received many a report in the last 4 years from people that I knew of Bigfoot in the area in which I lived. And I always said it was not going to be a surprise to me if I looked out the window and seen Bigfoot walk through my parking lot. I would almost be expectant of that at this point. It never happened, unfortunately, but to me it would have been par for the course, right? Could you imagine looking out your window and just seeing Sasquatch just, strolling by? Hey, how you doing? I would love to see that, but apparently there are those that have seen that in Idaho. And you remember we spoke of the sea monsters last week. and one of them ended up being, as a matter of fact, two of them ended up being in Idaho. The paddler in Pend-Oreille Lake, and there was another one also, forgive me, I don't remember the name right off the top of my head, of that particular cryptid at the Oregon-Idaho border in a lake, but there was definitely one there. And sea creatures, surprisingly, had the majority of the Idaho cryptid stories. But once again, Bigfoot is a very well-known thing in Idaho, and there have been many reports to come out of Idaho like this one.
So, Tim, you work out. You said you're out working right now in the field. What is your job?
I work for the Department of Defense.
All right, but you're out and about all the time, outside. So, being out in the wilderness is not new to you, correct?
No, I've been hunting and fishing since I could walk.
All right, so St. Joe National Forest, approximately where were you at? What was the closest town to where you were at?
It have to be St. Mary's.
Give us the details.
So I would just like to point out really quickly that he is a avid hunter and fisher, so he knows his wilderness very, very well.
First of all, this happened about 4 weeks ago, you said?
Yes. In the area that I go to, 3 years ago, I found giant human-like footprints in the snow in April. It was before anybody had gotten up in the mountains, and I have a 4x4 Jeep, and I made it pretty far until the snow was too deep. And when I turned around, I started going down, and I seen these giant holes in the snow. After hiking down in there, we found where it had walked, and I had taken pictures of the footprints. And then 3 months later, up in the same area, we were huckleberry picking, and I found a giant pool of scat. There's nothing in the woods that makes this big of a pool.
For those that may not understand what he just said there, scat is another name for droppings, if you will, or excrement, and that's about as far as I'm going to take that one. But just so you have an idea of what that is. Funny little side note, I went to a theme park just this past weekend, this past Sunday. I had the pleasure of being able to go to, sorry about that, guys, the pleasure of being able to go to a theme park, and they had a ride there called Scat 2. Of course, you couldn't have paid me to go on that ride. Just thought that was kind of funny, but just so you guys are aware of what that particular meaning of that word is.
Cool.
What about bear?
There's no bear in Idaho. I mean,
let me correct him right there. There are lots of bears in Idaho. I never particularly seen one where I lived, but they were reported as to coming into our town quite often before I got there. So there are bears in Idaho, but let's continue listening to the eyewitness.
As a kid, I actually seen a grizzly up there one time, but there's just nothing that makes this big of a pile. But that doesn't even matter because its footprint was in the pile of scat.
Okay, now, when you say you saw this massive footprint, give us the size of the footprint.
About 17 to 17 and a half inches.
Oh, that is a gigantic footprint.
And once again, it's not a bear print, so you didn't see claws. It was like a human-sized footprint.
It looks like a human footprint. There's no claws at the end of it like a bear would leave. It's not a bear. I know what a bear looks like.
But aren't there actual things that you can buy on Amazon that make those footprints? Like I've seen that on one of those shows where people will go out and push them down in the snow or the dirt and make it look like.
And I'll give it to her. That is a good possibility.
You know, I thought about that also, but at the time of the snow, there's no way. There's nobody up there. There's no campers. It's very remote. And when I tried following the footprints as it went up towards a canyon, I couldn't get through the snow. So I know that it's not human made.
And there were no other prints or anything leading to the other, what you.
And just real quick, I want to give thanks to Mix 106 is where this original interview has come from here. A great radio station, as you can tell. But I do definitely want to give credit where it's due. This is from an interview done live on the radio on Mix 106. You can find that channel on the YouTube if you are interested in looking this up for yourself.
You thought were Bigfoot prints?
None.
All right.
No human of anything, no tire tracks even. My Jeep was the first one that made it through that road.
4 weeks ago, you were in the St. Joe Forest. Now, is this the same area?
Yes, same area. I've read a lot about it, around about Bigfoot and that. And I started leaving food out on a stump, and then I'd come back in the morning. Well, of course, you don't know what's, so, I never thought much of it. That night when I put the food, I put 3 apples, an old banana, and I happened to have a set of spoons in my tackle box from fishing.
Right.
And I thought I'd throw that up on the stump. I put that up on the stump. I came back at 9:30 in the morning. I'm driving down the road, and I see the giant rock on the stump.
How much would you think, because you sent us this picture of this rock, and it's hard to tell from the picture, how much would you guess that rock weighs?
All right, guys. He left food on the stump, and he come back and there's a rock on the stump. How much do you guess this rock weighed? If it was a human, right? How big a rock you think would have been left there? I'd love to know over here in the chat room real quick. How big a size? Hello, Royal Magnolia. Glad to have you here. Glad to see you. It's always a pleasure, ma'am, to have you here. How big a rock you guys think this was? Think about it. There was some food left there. There was a big rock left on the stump. But if it was a human, how big do you think it is? I'm trying to wait for this for the chat to start coming up. Catherine M, welcome. Glad to have you here. Also, man, Danny Mall says Idaho is a yellow state apparently. I like that a lot. Who else we got in here? 60 pounds, says JoJo. That's a pretty good sized rock, but that's doable for a human, 60 pounds. Anybody else want to go ahead and give a stab at how big a rock you think could have been sitting on this stump? Couldn't stand Idaho Falls, said Raider Champion. Idaho Falls is okay. It's not the worst place I've ever been. It's pretty nice. Very nice part of Idaho. Idaho is shaped like a gun sideways. Yes, sir, it is. Tommy Apples, welcome, says howdy, y'all. Howdy, Tommy. 35 pounds, 20 stone, says Raider Champion. If you could go ahead and convert that out of the metric English system into some American, I'd love that, please. 10 ounces. I can't do the metric size, guys. 150 pounds, 33 pounds. Okay, let's see how big he says this rock really was.
I would say 250.
What?
Possibly 300.
250, possibly 300 pounds. Catherine M says 80 pounds. I have no idea. And that's the point. It's 300 pounds. This had to be a big old boy to be lifting this as a human, right? 280 pounds, said Raider Champion. He came close. 200 to 300 pound rock sitting on the stump where he had left the food previously. I don't think it just magically teleported itself there on top of the food. At least I would guess that's not the case.
It's huge.
So something ate the food on that trunk and then put the rock there?
I don't know if they ate it, took it, or what, but there's nobody
they replaced it.
that can...
You know what I think happened?
That was their thing.
Which could suggest that whatever did this had an extremely high intelligence in comparison to the rest of the animal kingdom.
Yeah, I think that was their thank you. I think you left food for them on their table, and they go, I'm going to give you a rock, and put the rock up on that stump.
Maybe in their world, that's a show of appreciation.
And let's put it, you know better than we do. That's not something that a rock that you, for instance, could just pick up and put up on a stump.
No, not only that, they would have had to have gotten that rock from about, I would say, 80 to 100 yards away out of the creek. So there's no way a human carried that rock, carried it up an embankment, up a hill, and put it up on that stump.
And surprisingly enough, that is not the first time I've heard of such a type of encounter with the rock being what was replaced for the food, and the food like that being left. Apples are actually left quite often for Bigfoot. It seems to be one of his favorite treats because he tends to grab them every time. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you believe this guy's story? Do you think he really did encounter a Bigfoot creature, or do you think he's just confused for a bear? Go ahead and put a 1 in the chat room if you believe, yep, he absolutely seen Bigfoot in its entirety. Go ahead and put a 2 in the chat room if you think, no, he's just a little confused by the bear that live in Idaho, and he was just mistaken. And go ahead and put a 3 in the chat room if you're unsure what to make of the story altogether. That's not the only report that is out of Idaho, of course. This comes out of the Sandpoint magazine, and this is the summer of 2018 issue. It says, while rafting the Moy River last May, my friends and I saw an unusually tall, hairy figure striding through the pines of the riverbank. "Look at that," someone yelled. It turned and crouched in a half-threatening way, and I snapped a photo before the runoff swollen river carried us away. And personally, in this photo, it looks about like Chewbacca bent over. It's really crazy looking. We laughed, giddy from the rapids we'd run, guessing we saw some local on drywall stilts and dressed up like the legendary Sasquatch, getting his jollies by spooking boaters on Memorial Day weekend. And, of course, we can't put the idea of pranks out of the question, right? Speaking of pranks, let's see what you guys said about that first story. Do you think it was a prank, or do you think he really seen a Bigfoot creature? Let's see what you guys said. And looks like over here in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room, Euler Greg says, one, absolutely believes that was a true story. He seen the Sasquatch. Jojo says, yep, gifted a rock. Carol's cookie. So the rock was a gift. A thank you for food. Here's a rock. That's pretty much what it seemed like to me. Absolutely. Euler Greg says a clear message. Absolutely. Carol's cookie says, so does that make me a Squatch? Well, I think that's up to you to determine, right? She said, I give people rocks as gifts. When I go somewhere new, I bring back a rock and give them to some of my friends. Well, maybe that's a primitive nature that we have that they share with us, right? Very well could be. Over in the the Ripon Rabbit Hole chat room, Sandy B says 111 across the board. Absolutely believes that is real. My life DIY with ones across the board. You can hear my dog tapping out his one across the board over here, across the boards of the floor. Catherine M with a 1. Errol Taylor with a 1. All these ones across the boards. Absolutely believes that that's what he's seen. Then we got a couple 3s over here. Surprisingly, Tommy Apples with the 3 says, I don't know. Terry Taggart, our lovely fencer over here, she loves to stay on the fence, and nothing wrong with that, guys. Open-mindedness is one great thing to have. Terry Taggart with the 3 says, I'm not so sure either. Either way. Royal Magnolia with a smile. All right, and Tommy Apple says, I came in a little late to the convo. No problem, Tommy. That's an honest answer. If you don't have all the information, you can't make an informed decision. One thing to keep in mind about all things, especially the reality of today's society, right? If you don't have all the information, you cannot make a completely informed decision. But let's get back to the topic at hand. Now, getting back into our article here, says, I couldn't resist sharing the photo, so my frozen solid Sasquatch cynicism began to thaw. Even if our sighting was a hoax, the tales it unleashes justified a deeper look into the legend of Sasquatch, aka Bigfoot. Sandpoint local Christine Kester never really thought much of Sasquatch till she saw 3 strange creatures while backpacking in Millard Larkin's primitive area in 2001. The Millard Larkins is perched in the headwaters of the St. Joe and Clearwater rivers. Kester and her companion were well into their journey on a ridge above Hart Lake when they looked down and saw 2 large figures and a dog, or a pet bear, hanging around like a happy family in the marshy part of the lake. The 2-legged figures were startled by the hikers on the ridge and started running. They were running like kids, Kester recalled. Their arms were out in front of them, and they were jumping over logs like they were nothing, I said. Check out their dog. It's a bear, and those people are all brown. They disappeared into the trees, and we both looked at each other like, did this really happen? To this day, I regret we didn't go down and look for footprints, said Kester. Kester reported her sighting to the BFRO, Bigfoot Research Organization. Real quick, before we go any further, I would like to point out I just now learned something in the chat. Raider Champion says 1 stone is about 14 pounds. I did not know that. And yes, quite appropriate way to answer the question of the stone. I will give it to you there. I just wish that I had known at the time what the weight was. But now back to our article here. They collect stories from North America, categorize them, then post the most credible. It turns out that Bonner County is a Sasquatch hotspot with more recorded sightings than any county in Idaho. In fact, there's a backlog of 22 incidents awaiting a review, according to a volunteer with the site. It's no wonder such a big Sasquatch breeding ground would also spawn a Sasquatch club, right? Standpoint High School student Jatil Lund Anderson, Wyatt Wad, and Kieran Wilder, forgive me if I messed up that first name, started the school club this year. It has about 15 members. As avid squatchers, I asked them to look at a photo, which they scrutinized and concluded was not legit. The legs look long proportionally to the arms, one noted. Another noted, Sasquatch doesn't have hair coming off their head. It's shorter all over the body. While some squatchers explore the woods for evidence, these students are interested in sharing information and discussing wide-ranging theories. I gotta say, these sound like my kind of kids. Anything is really possible unless you're sure of it. Anything is really possible unless you're sure it isn't. Okay, I like that quote. Said Wilder. Sasquatch signs sometimes involve baffling rock throwing, sounds, or smells. Sasquatch are said to whistle, knock on trees, and stink terribly. I did have an odd odor blow through my area just a couple days ago, and I am next to a wooded zone, so maybe I had an encounter too and didn't know it, right? In all seriousness, I thought about that after it happened. But a surprising number of reports involve sightings like Kester's. Fearing ridicule, many people are loath to speak up. One person shared a story of a Bonner County couple who reported seeing a Sasquatch up Hell-Roaring Creek in the Selkirks while bear hunting last September. They spied a tall black figure about 7 or 8 feet tall with a round head, no ears, very wide shoulders about 75 to 100 yards away. It stared back. At this point, I have tears in my eyes and am scared to death, said the woman. We were 100% positive this wasn't a bear or a person. Northern Idaho sightings aren't always in remote areas, though. This is an interesting story here. A few months earlier, Sharita Hall was sheriff driving from Tenside, Ohio to Moscow to pick up a pizza. She had just passed the rest area of U.S. Highway 95, south of McCroskey State Park, when she saw a tall, two-legged, hairy figure come up on the left side of the highway and pause at her shoulder's white line. She slowed down as she passed and, quote, I kept looking back, end quote, she told me. That's why I hit the deer. While inspecting her car, a creepy feeling came over her, so she drove off before calling the cops. The accident diagram on the Latah County Sheriff's Report is complete with dead deer and car on the highway, and off to the side, a tiny Sasquatch image pulled from the notorious Roger Patterson film, or Patterson-Gimlin film. Sasquatch stories have been passed down by Native Americans for centuries, but Bigfoot was pinned by news reports after large footprints were found in 1958 at a road construction site in California, which Patterson visited. That's actually old information there. Let's see if we have any more information on Idaho Bigfoots, and it doesn't appear to have any more information in this particular article, but very incredibly intriguing that not only does Idaho have a large variety of sea monsters, but it's also got a large variety of Bigfoots. And once again, I can tell you in the Blaine County area, I had a multitude, and I mean a multitude, of reports of people who swore that they had encounters with Bigfoot. 2 people described to me hearing a Bigfoot scream, end quote. And other people have reported having rocks flung in their vicinity and seeing something that just wasn't right. A very tall, dark, hairy creature. So I really, truly believe that the Bigfoots have made their home in Idaho, and I think there's quite a few of them. As a matter of fact, the Native Americans actually many times spoke of the wild men tribes that they would interact with, sometimes fighting, sometimes trading. And I just can't get over the story we heard earlier about the rock, because in a society like a Bigfoot society, it makes you wonder, perhaps that would be their version of barter, right? Rocks, if you will. Remember, the early Native Americans used shells and a lot of primitive things as their barter system for trade. And perhaps that is what the Bigfoot still does to this day. Perhaps to them, rocks of different sizes have different importance, right? The guy left a large amount of food with 2 spoons and was rewarded with a very large rock. Of course, to us, that large rock doesn't mean anything, but to the Bigfoot, that could have been the equivalent of $1 million. You know what I mean? It could be the equivalent of richness within that society. And we must assume that Bigfoot has some type of society, right? There's just too much evidence to suggest this very thing. In order to ignore that evidence would be nothing shy of silly. We see that they have a family unit of some type. The last report, or one of the last reports we just heard, suggested that they even have pets, like a bear. And perhaps that's the case. Perhaps they do take pets for their young Sasquatches. It's incredibly intriguing to think that there are creatures out there that aren't quite to the human level, but have the same type of intelligence as a human would. Perhaps they look at things a little differently than us humans do, and are most likely more scared of us than we'll ever be of them. But it does make you wonder, how much family unit and family intelligence do these creatures have? And they must be quite intelligent in order to hide like they have, right? The Bigfoot is a creature that is very, very elusive. Though it has been caught more and more on camera in the recent ages, still, Bigfoot has always been an incredibly elusive creature. But once again, this is one of many, many cryptids in Idaho, the Bigfoots, and looks like there's a variety of them, from the dark black hair to the brown, and probably a couple gray ones, though we've not seen or heard about them tonight. There's more likely a variety larger than what we have already found, right? At least I would think so. Plus, we know that Idaho has a lot of sea monsters, right? Or lake monsters, I should say. We covered a couple of those last week on this show. The lake monsters of the different states around the country and in the oceans around the world. And, of course, Idaho did come up on that list a couple times also. But, ladies and gentlemen, you guys know that music means we have to go ahead and take a network break right here. We've run out of time for the first half. So, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. You're listening to the Dark Wolf's Den radio show exclusively on Ripon, Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. We will be right back with the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den show after these messages. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Oh yeah, that howl means your weekend has begun. Hi everyone, it's AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Are you enjoying the Dark Wolf's Den radio show with Jerry Hicks' State of Mystery for Idaho? I know I am. If you are and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best of Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den show will return again tomorrow night, Thursday, September 16th. Starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as all shows do. Come along with him and howl at ghost trains. Then I'll return Friday night for cloning. That's right. We're going to look at human, animal, fish, a whole bunch, a wild subject of cloning. Friday, September 17th. Now, that is going to be my only night on air this weekend. And Jerry Hicks is going to return Saturday night, September 18th, with another State of Mystery, this time Illinois. And he's going to end out the weekend right together with you Sunday, September 19th, with a look at the Mandela effect. Now, I am going away, and I'm going up to a part of the state that I've been to before, and I had challenges when I was up there to do the show, and ultimately we ended up not being even able to do the show because the internet was just terrible. So I have made advance notification to Jerry, and he has accepted to fill in this weekend and take it from there while we are away. I will return next weekend on Friday night once again, of course, but Jerry Hicks will howl the weekend in, and he will howl it out this weekend together with you. So I take my top hats off to him for his and give my gratitude for his willingness to be able to pick up the 2 extra nights this week. I can't wait to tune in as a listener. It's going to be fun. The entire weekend schedule has been posted over on our website as well, riponrabbithole.com. Just click on Listen Live, and you'll be able to see all of the updates for this weekend's schedule. That's riponrabbithole.com. Sign up for an exclusive Backstage VIP pass Friday night. I'm going to tell you about some community changes and some new features I'm going to tell you more about Friday night. It's going to be some really cool stuff coming to the community. So if you haven't done so already, please make sure to sign up for that free and always will be Backstage VIP pass. We'll return to the Dark Wolf's Den radio show, State of Mystery for Idaho, Wednesday, September 15th. You're listening to the Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole.
Reestablishing multiverse connection. Connection reestablished and secure.
This is My Life DIY, and
Hi, this is JoJo. Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, September the 15th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are covering the State of Mystery of Idaho. That's right, all the paranormal stories we can find. In the first half, we heard a lot about the Bigfoots of Idaho and the variety of those, along with the sea monsters that we talked about last week, interestingly enough. And in the second half, we're going to go ahead and dig into the UFOs and the ghosts of Idaho. But before we do, I do have a special announcement. This is coming directly from the front page of the imec.world website. That is imec.world. It is with sad heart that we inform you that our dear friend and fellow speaker with the Mandela Effect Conference, one Eileen Colts, has unfortunately passed away on Sunday, September 12th, 2021. All of our thoughts and prayers are with the family in this time of grief. She was a remarkable person and will be dearly missed, end quote. And I second that. She was a friend of mine. I knew Miss Eileen quite well. Her and Shane Robinson used to do a weekly weekly YouTube show, as well as the amazing work that she did herself. She's traveled around the world, did many different radio jobs, a fellow radio announcer, and a true loss to the world. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, one Eileen Colts has passed away, unfortunately, Sunday, September 12th, 2021. If I may ask for just a moment of silence in her honor. And I thank you guys for bearing with me for that moment of silence in honor of Eileen Colts. And with that said, let's get back into the even more wild and crazy stuff that is the paranormal stories of Idaho. And Idaho, of course, is number one not only in cryptid sightings of Bigfoot. If it's not number one there, it's pretty darn close, but also in sightings of UFOs. That's right. It is the number one, or one of the number one hotspots in the entire country for 2020 for a UFO sighting. And I was there in 2020. There was a big sighting of multiple crafts on one evening while I was there. It's the only main sighting that I was aware of in my time there. However, the actual term UFO actually came from Idaho. That's right. A pilot named Kenneth Arnold, who had flown out of Boise Airport, had noticed the objects in the sky that he called, said it looked like saucers skipping across the sky. And the term flying saucer was born by a overzealous writer or journalist at the time who mistook the information and said it was like flying saucers. So thus the term flying saucer was born by Kenneth Arnold out of Boise, Idaho. And that has continued to this day. There are multiple news reports all the time of UFOs being seen in Idaho, like this report right here.
Flying objects, or aerial phenomena, while they may be unidentified, they've certainly gotten more attention lately, even in the skies above Idaho. According to the website UFOstalker.com, there are more than 900 reports of UFO sightings from the Gem State, from as far back as the 1940s to as recently as this year. Like this one, May 11th, 2021, about 1:30 in the afternoon. Observed about 4 to 5 tic-tac type objects flying about a white puffy cloud.
Now, tic-tac type objects, does that not sound a lot like what was reported back in the, a year ago from the military? Tic-tac, did that sound real familiar like?
Watch this for about 30 seconds, and then the tic-tacs just disappeared. April 17th, 2021, catch 'em.
So this occurred exactly the time I was there, April 2021, before I left, and I lived in Ketchum, Idaho at the time. So this literally happened right under my nose one night. I had a buddy, Walt. You guys know Walt. He does the intro and outro voiceovers for the channel here, or for the show here. Walt has reported to me many times a number of UFO sightings that sound exactly like the one we're about to hear.
Stationary, pulsating, shape-shifting, multicolored bright light in the sky around 11:30 at night. Lasted approximately 10 minutes, then disappeared. March 17th, 2021, Nampa. Summary, rectangle. Saw a rectangle shape going across the sky. Nothing pulling it. Took pictures.
Is it true that Idaho was one of the highest sightings per capita in the country?
At one point it was per capita, but you've also got to realize there's not that many people in Idaho, so it didn't take that many sightings to put us up.
Jim Millard has always had a thing for unidentifiable flying things.
Okay, I just have to cut in here. Man, Danny Mall. I'm sorry, guys. Man, Danny Mall says, flying saucers occasionally appeared soaring across the dining room towards my head towards the end of my marriage. I think there may be one or two of us in here who can definitely relate to that.
Do you believe in UFOs?
I've seen them.
You've seen them?
I've seen them.
When?
Started when I was 5 years old.
And when it comes to UFOs, when a person has seen something, they know what they've seen, right?
I saw a UFO floating slowly over my house in San Diego, and it was not balloon-shaped, it was saucer-shaped. It was flat.
So you've always believed in them?
Yeah. I know they're there.
These days, Jim is the state director for the Mutual UFO Network.
We are the only people on the planet that do scientific investigation of UFOs.
When was the last credible report in Idaho?
See, at that point, my answer would have been, it depends. What time is it? There are credible reports all the time coming in through Idaho.
Trying to think how long ago it was. I closed it 2 weeks ago, so it was 3 or 4 weeks ago.
When you say closed it, what does that mean?
That means that I determined it was an unidentified. Couldn't find a planet or a star in that spot in the sky. Couldn't find an aircraft in that area at that point in time. There's nothing else on the ground or anything else around that could possibly have caused that thing to appear. And it doesn't have the shape of an aircraft, the attributes of an aircraft. It's just unexplainable.
Jim says that case is now being investigated further by actual scientists with PhDs. He believes Idaho has seen a fair share of UFOs because we were downwind of nuclear testing in Nevada.
A lot of dust, a lot of dirt, a lot of radioactive waste floated right up into Idaho.
And they are just checking in to see how we've dealt with it.
And of course, for decades, that has been the main claim of a lot of abductees is the aliens are worried about the nuclear testing done by the governments of this planet and would like it to be stopped because they know the effects and the dangers that this does present. Of course, once again, many abductees have come back with this same message for humanity. So that is very intriguing, and that is the UFOs of Idaho, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of very intriguing, there's also one more very intriguing paranormal thing about Idaho. You see, Idaho was the wild, wild west. It was truly a crazy time when there were bank robberies and stagecoach robberies and cowboys and Indians and the whole 9 yards. So with such a blood-soaked land, you would imagine that it's got its fair share of hauntings. That's right. But before we get into those, what do you guys think about the UFO cases in Idaho? You think it's also a UFO hot spot, that these people are actually seeing a large variety of UFOs, going back to the original terming of the word flying saucer, right? The coining of the phrase, if you will, of flying saucer. Do you think that Idaho is experiencing a large variety? And do you think that it's because of the nuclear fallout? That's what I want to know. Do you think they're experiencing it because of nuclear fallout? Go ahead, put a 1 in the chat room if you think, yep, that's why the aliens are here. They're monitoring humanity to make sure we're okay. Go ahead, put a 2 in the chat room if you think, no, they're here for a completely different reason. The reason they're in Idaho is possibly the Bigfoots or something else. It isn't for the protection of humanity. Go ahead and put a 3 in the chat room if you think, no, it's probably neither one of these. It's something altogether different, or you're unsure. So that's 1 for definitely UFOs, 2 for or I'm definitely for our good, 2 for definitely not for our good, 3 for unsure. That's right. And while we're waiting for those to come into the chat room, let's go ahead and start on the ghosts of Idaho. That's right.
Mesa Falls. The Mesa Falls in Ashton are beautiful, haunting, and perfect to start off this countdown. The falls are reportedly haunted by the spirit of a young Shoshone girl who drowned in the river many years ago. According to local legend, she is said to have been pulled under while trying to save someone caught in the river. Her spirit is still seen, dressed in white, waiting in the lower falls.
And river ghosts isn't exactly something that we hear of as often, right? Not as often as the other ghosts we tend to hear about. Speaking of tending to hear about, we tend to hear about UFOs and their reason for being here quite a bit. Let's see what you guys said over in the chat. Remember, it was 1 if you think they're here for our well-being, 2 if you think they're here for their own agenda, 3 if you're unsure. Let's see what you guys said over there in the Ripon Rabbit Hole and Dark Wolf's Den YouTube chat rooms. Looks like we have Raider Champion says 3.4. Definitely does not think that is the case. Terry Taggart with a 1. Oh, wow. Usually, as you guys know, she's on those 3s. Terry Taggart with a 1. It is definitely aliens checking in on our well-being. Mandani Mall with a 3. Not so sure. My Life with a 1. Definitely aliens checking in on our well-being. Sandy with a 3 and a 4. Not so sure and not quite sure what else, if anything else, it could be. Over here in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room, Chris Spivey, my old friend Chris Spivey, great to see you, my friend. Definitely going to have to hook up with you sometime soon. He is a personal friend of mine I've known for many years. Glad you have stopped on by here and are hanging out with us. JoJo's says 111. Yep, because of the nuclear thing, they're definitely watching over us. Without question. How do you spell that? THAT, says Radio Champion. I do believe that is the correct answer also. And I mentioned a moment ago that we don't have a lot of river ghosts. However, one thing we do find quite often and have found across a majority of these states are haunted campuses or college campuses, right?
Brigham Young University. Brigham Young University opened in Rexburg in 1888 and until recently was known as Rick's College. The haunting on campus is said to be caused by a young girl who was murdered here. Her tiny, misty apparition is seen roaming the grounds near the Hart Building. She is seen walking from the east door of the Hart Building to the Romney Building and then tracing her steps back again. The sound of a child's footsteps can be heard, and some are run through by an icy chill when she is near. Careful not to get in her way, she is said to get angry at any that block her path.
Which I would really love to know how in the world you block a ghost's path, right? I mean, you may be standing there, but they can literally go through solid objects. So that's a little silly. But on a serious note, we know that murder is the number one reason, or a major reason, I wouldn't say the number one, but a major reason for a lot of hauntings where blood has spilled, ghosts tend to reign, right? Very intriguing case there. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a problem getting in front of a ghost there? Go ahead, put a 1 if you would block the path just to see what happened. Go ahead, put a 2 if you think, no, you should respect the ghost's wishes. Go ahead, put a 3 if you're unsure. And I think we have time for one more ghost story of Idaho before we close it out tonight.
Lake Coeur d'Alene. Lake Coeur d'Alene proves you don't need a ghost to have the supernatural. Visitors report hearing unexplainable noises coming from nowhere, footsteps in the bushes, and disembodied voices surrounding the lake. The image of a creature said to be half fish, half woman has appeared to several.
Whoa. Wait a second. Are we talking mermaids here? Did this belong in our cryptid section earlier? Are we seriously talking about mermaids in a lake in Idaho? I gotta hear this.
She is seen near a large pointed rock that sticks out of the lake. Boaters tell legends of a mysterious wind that churns up the water even on clear, calm days. as well as a huge horned creature that is said to lift boats out of the water from time to time.
Okay, I've never heard of a mermaid with a big horn on its head like that attacking boats, but hey, we never know what's down there, right? A mermaid in the lake. That's wow. That's something else. Speaking of wow, let's see what you guys said over there in the chat room there. Remember, it was a 1 if you would block the path, 2 if you would not block the path, and 3 if you're unsure. Let's see what you guys said over there. Raider Champion says 2.2. He definitely would not do that. Almost leaning towards unsure there. Terry Taggart with a 3, definitely unsure. Mandeni Mall with a ghost and a scat emoji. My Life DIY with a 2. Definitely would not block the path, would respect the ghost. Mandeni Mall with a 2. Sandy B also with a 2. Over in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room, Carol's Cookie says, is the top or bottom half of her the half fish? I'm not sure that it's said. I would assume the bottom half. That would really be a ugly top half, wouldn't you think? Like a carp with a human leg. That's the only stuff we see on Comedy Central, right? I think I've seen it on Comedy Central a couple of times. Narwhal, says Chris Spivey. You know, still not the strangest thing ever. Does it have human-like features? I don't know. I haven't seen a narwhal with human-like features, but it still would not be the strangest thing I've ever seen, especially not on hearing about it on this show. JoJo's 111 says definitely would stand in the way of the ghost and see what would happen. She's kind of brave over here. I got to say, I would stand in the way of the ghost just to see what happened, because, you know, you never know, right? Just, I would love to feel like cold chills that goes through, goes past me. And then again, you might get what they call it, possessed, right? Might get possessed by it. Chris Spider says, you got a Facebook? Yes, we do have a Facebook. As a matter of fact, I've got 2 Facebooks. I have my personal, Jerry Hicks, over on Facebook. I've had that for many years. Also, if you're interested, we have the Dark Wolf's Den Show page over on Facebook. And there you can apply for the private group of the Dark Wolf's Den Show also, if you want to go ahead and join the VIP section over there. That's where we send out our shows every time we are getting ready to go live. We send a information out, a post out on Facebook, and let everybody know that we're about to go live. So go ahead and subscribe to that if you haven't already. I'm not a fan of Facebook. I'll be honest with you. The only reason I really use it is to spread truth that they don't like and to try to market this show, right? To let all you guys know that we are over there, at least the ones that are still using that horrible platform also. But definitely go check us out, guys. We would very much appreciate it. And it looks like the clock has got us here, but what do you guys think, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think Idaho is a true state of mystery? Do you think it has enough paranormal activity in it to call it a true state of mystery? Or do you think we're barking up the wrong tree again? In the end, ladies and gentlemen, all you can do is look at the evidence, apply a little common sense, and you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the den may be closing, but don't you worry. The weekend fun has only just begun. That's right. Check it out. Tomorrow, Thursday, September 16th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. I will be back with an all-new episode of the Dark Wolf's Den radio show. That's right. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about ghost trains. The tracks might not always be filled with trains that are of this dimension, if you will. Perhaps spirit trains roam the tracks as well. Does this sound crazy? Well, get ready to take a wild ride tomorrow night, Thursday, September 16th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, right here on Ripon, Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Then on Friday, September 17th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, we're going to let our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit have one show this weekend, and it's going to be on Friday. That's right, he's going to be talking about cloning. As crazy and far out as that used to sound, that's a lot more scientific than you may think. Is human cloning a thing? Have they already done it? Have they been doing it for years? I'm sure he'll cover all that and more on Friday, September 17th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central on Ripon Common Sense Radio. And that show will be broadcast on the Ripon Rabbit Hole YouTube channel exclusively. And then on Saturday, September 18th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, Dark Wolf himself will be back. We will be back with an all-new episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Radio Show. That's right, believe it or not, we're going to cover most of the weekend once again. We're going to be doing another State of Mystery. Since we did miss a couple weeks there, we've got a couple we can still do. So we're going to play catch-up with this one. We're going to talk about the state of Illinois. So it's 2 State of Mysteries this week, ladies and gentlemen, Idaho and Illinois. And something tells me Illinois is going to have just as much paranormal as Idaho had. That's right. Then on Sunday, September 19th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, I will close the weekend out right with yet another episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Radio Show. That's right. On that show, we're going to be talking about the Mandela Effect. Ooh, one of my favorite topics. And we may actually very well have a special guest yet to be determined that will have more information as the weekend goes on, ladies and gentlemen. And for more information on any and all shows we have here on the network, make sure you hop on over to the riponrabbithole.com. That is RIPON, That's right. Over there, you're going to find a load of fun stuff to do. Like what? Like first, you're going to have to sign up for your Backstage Pass. This is a one-time sign up. It is absolutely free and always will be. This is going to give you access to all the fun on the page. Just go ahead and put your email information in there and sign up for that pass. We will send you an email once a week, every week, with all the shows we have coming up for that weekend, as well as posting it on our live on-air page here on the riponrabbithole.com once again. Also, while you're on the riponrabbithole.com, make sure you go down to the groups section. I have created a new group over there, the Convention of States group. If you don't know what the Convention of States is, go check that out. We're going to continue to add information to that group as quickly as we can. And a variety of other groups, including the Mandela Effect, ghosts, UFOs, paranormal of all types, subjects of all types. So go check out our group section and see if you can find something for you. That's right. And also while you're there, make sure you pop into the 24/7 Backstage Lounge, another free chat program you can use over there. That's where I'm going to be right after the show. That's where a lot of us rabbits go to continue the conversation much, much longer after the show is ended. So if you'd like to carry on the conversation or talk about anything you'd like, come on over to the riponrabbithole.com and the 24/7 Backstage Lounge. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So much fun, so little time over there. And so much more that I ain't even got time to talk about tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You're just going to have to go play on that side and see what you can find. And on that, ladies and gentlemen, I have to go ahead and get out here for tonight and head on over there to that 24/7 Backstage Lounge. So on behalf of AJ the Ripon Rabbit, Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, Walt House, everyone at Ripon Common Sense Radio, our amazing moderators in both chat rooms, Dark Wolf's Den Show, as well as Ripon Rabbit Hole, and last but not least, Mr. Tom Bayless from Red Shed Studios. Give us some music here, Tom. Get down with it, bud. All the music you hear is Tom. That's not anybody but Tom. The drums, the guitar, all of it is Tom Bayless of Red Shed Studios. If you need a custom soundtrack for your next project, make sure you check out Red Shed Studios. Links in the description. On behalf of all these amazing folks, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone involved with Ripon Common Sense Radio, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and you've been listening to the Dark Wolf's Den Radio Show exclusively on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember, stay awake, but dare to dream. Good night, everybody. How? Yeah. That's right.
Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever home. Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm